This paper explores how the viewing and creating of art improved accessibility for students with emotional and communicative learning needs in an A-level classical literature classroom. My name is Emily Rushton, and I am a Senko and Classics teacher at a school in South London. As a person with disabilities myself, I've always been keen to challenge how we view accessibility in our classrooms and how to push the boundaries in how we help others to explore through learning. The motivation for this project originated in my own A-level classroom and the teaching of Homer's Odyssey. With a class that had a higher proportion of emotional and communicative needs, some students found it difficult to access the content of the epic, with some accustomed to simply leaving the room when the class discussed topics they found challenging. Similarly, the fantastical themes within the epic were sometimes difficult for some students to comprehend. This was something that I hoped we could improve through using alternative techniques. Similarly, as a person with disabilities myself, I considered the growing need for us to diverge from preconceived notions of how knowledge should be demonstrated and become braver with challenging how we approach teaching and learning and the recording of knowledge. I analysed the main themes that I wish to explore in this paper and discussed these through my literature review. I looked into the following 4 areas: autism spectrum condition and anxiety in the A-level literature classroom, theory of mind and access to literature, using arts therapy to inform subject-based teaching, and emerging accessibility projects in classical education. A review of the literature highlighted the success of art therapy interventions in alleviating the difficulties associated with autism spectrum condition and/or anxiety for young people. However, these interventions were seldom integrated into the classroom and at no time explored through a curriculum subject. I considered the predetermined expectations of how someone should be able to demonstrate their understanding, which is dictated and limited by different subject choices. This led me to my research question: does the creating and viewing of art positively impact the emotional and communicative accessibility of classical literature? Through exploring this question, this research seeks to bridge the gap between art therapy intervention and the classroom curriculum. The paper also addresses how conventional methods of knowledge demonstration can be exclusive to show true understanding, as well as the importance of a holistically inclusive classroom. The research design focused on being a transformative and emancipatory action for those with disabilities, to promote an inclusive space for both the participants and myself as a disabled author. This framework particularly champions the social model of disability and actively focuses on the experience of the participants and their perceptions of how they can access the text. This was a small-scale action research project, which collected data that were from mixed methods, but predominantly qualitative. There was a collaborative teaching sequence, and ethics was held at the forefront of the study. Throughout the teaching sequence, the following outcomes were found. Firstly, students had a better opportunity to view, imitate, and develop the work and art of others. Secondly, using the viewing and creating of art in the classroom allowed for transferable skills of how they could discuss and analyse visual representations of literature and transfer this to their linear essay writing. The use of artistic activities also allowed for the internal exploration of understanding and interpreting the text without the social fear of anxiety. However, it should also be noted that the art activities often promoted a camaraderie between the participants and gave them a stimulus upon which to base their social interactions. The viewing and creating of art also allowed for more comprehension time and an opportunity for reflection through a tangible piece that the students could refer back to while they were writing. Most importantly, it showed that the students could really foster their enjoyment and self-expression, meaning they developed their own critical voice on the epic. It should also, however, be mentioned that it was noticed that there was an anxiety with creativity with some of the participants. A fear of getting it wrong or doing something so outlandish that people weren't expecting meant that some students struggled to have the confidence to be creative. Overall, the findings showed that accessibility was improved by using art therapy approaches within a subject-based curriculum based on the data collected. However, it should also be considered what we could do about the anxiety of creativity. The study also raised the importance of emotional and attainment-based differentiation in the classroom, and the different ways that knowledge recording can allow different students to flourish. Further points for discussion could include what transferable skills can be taken from art activities that can be applied in all classrooms to aid a broader variety of learners. Explicitly, how can we incorporate cognitive and emotional differentiation into our everyday planning? And finally, how can creative activities be differentiated to meet all emotional needs and capabilities? Most importantly, this study must acknowledge the phenomenal participants of this action research project. Not only did they boldly throw themselves into all the activities, they consistently made teaching an absolute pleasure for me. I thank them for being brave, I thank them for being bold, and I thank them for littering my classroom with classics memes. Thank you so much for watching.